Somehow Man City have convinced to join them. I cannot believe this. Last season's champions are relegated. Stupidly, I've decided to film this on the hottest day ever in British history, but this is flipped, where I've taken all of the Football League system and flipped it upside down. So the Premier League teams went all the way down to the National League South and the National League North, and the National League North and South teams made it all the way up to the Premier League and the leagues in between to Championship, also in the National League South and North. League One are down in the Conference and so forth. They all flipped around. So that meant if you've not seen season 1 yet, go back and have a look at it, and you'll see that Curzon Ashton, for example, won the Premier League. Some of the teams made it out of National League in South and North and back up into the Conference. They're on their way back to the Premier League, and those former South and North teams managed to get into Europe, so we'll see how they got on in Europe today's video also. But we're going to start today's video down in the Vanarama National League South and North. We'll look at South first, so we'll see how the Premier League teams who did not go up last season are still getting on. So Arsenal is still there, Crystal Palace is still there, Fulham, Brighton, West Ham, Brentford, along with a whole load of Championship teams in the South League. We'll start right there. So this is the Vanarama National League South. As you can see, Arsenal were the champions. They went up with 117 points. Southampton, and as a Pompey fan, it pleases me so much to say this, they got 117 points and did not get promoted, because of course there are a lot of playoff spots, and Crystal Palace got that final playoff spot. They finished down in 7th, but they got through the first round versus West Ham, and then it goes to a semi-final where they beat off Brentford, and then in the final, so they beat Southampton 1-0. So Palace are going up to the Vanarama National League Conference. Now the interesting thing is some teams came down from the Vanarama National League last season. I believe it was Wimbledon and Cheltenham, but also some non-league teams came up into the division. With the Vanarama National League South, that's quite interesting because there are only 21 teams last season post-COVID because of teams folding or disappearing or not being able to fulfill games. They're going up to 24 teams this season. So 6 teams were added into the Vanarama National League South. So something interesting also happened. If you know how the Vanarama National League South and North works, of course, the teams are redistributed. So in the middle, roughly in the just below the Midlands, they might get pushed into the Vanarama National League North or South. Now that meant that Aston Villa and Birmingham, who were in the South last year, got moved into the North, because a lot of the teams that came up from the divisions below were Southern teams. That means we've got 6 new teams in this Vanarama National League South. So Hornchurch, Chesham, Farnborough, Kingston, Salisbury and Methil all came into this Vanarama National League South. Of course, 4 of them were relegated. They did manage to pick up a few wins, but they were all against each other with the exception of Methil beating AFC Wimbledon. So there's a few Premier League teams still hanging on. Southampton, Brentford, West Ham, Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth and Watford are obviously in and out of the Premier League quite often. Cardiff, Coventry, Swansea, these teams might get stuck in this Vanarama League South for a little bit longer. In the North section, Aston Villa actually came up champions. Man Utd only managed to get promoted via the playoffs. Leeds, Newcastle, Leicester, Burnley, Everton all losing out in the playoffs. Down at the bottom end of the table, Tamworth, Nuneaton, Doncaster and Birmingham have been relegated. So Birmingham have dropped out of the league system. That is the first of the big casualties from the league system other than Peterborough last season. There is also a little note at the bottom here. 10 points deducted for Everton for administration. So we'll quickly look at Everton's finances. Right. So good news for Everton fans. The bad news is the administration. The good news is they've got this new sugar daddy, Rao Zhangsheng. He's put 2 billion into the club. So it will be interesting to see where Everton go from here. Chairperson Rao Zhangsheng has taken over as a tycoon. So we're going to go up and look at the Vanarama National League Conference next. We can see Liverpool, Man City went into there last year, Chelsea and Spurs. We'll see how they got on in their first season. Now there are only 2 playoff promotion spots in there, so it'll be interesting to see which of those got promoted. Man City were the champions, 130 points. They only lost 2 games, both to Chelsea. Liverpool were pretty close, but they lost the match to Crewe, and Chelsea just couldn't pick up enough wins, picking up way too many draws. Tottenham also missing out on getting promoted. Down at the bottom there, these teams are going to go down into the Vanarama National League South and North, so it'll be again interesting to see how they get on. Accrington, Gillingham, Colchester and Oldham, all 4 of these teams are going down. Up in League 2, Sunderland have made it a 2nd successive promotion. They got promoted last season, they're also going up this season. Rotherham, also promoted last season, are also going up now to League 1. Exeter and Forest Green are joining them. But interesting thing there is what is next to Cambridge's name. They have qualified for the Europa Conference League, so we'll have to check out how they've qualified later on. At the bottom there, Altrincham and Dover are going down. These teams are going to be ready because Liverpool and Manchester City will be joining them next year. There are still 2 playoff spots, but the season after that is going to start to get a little bit tighter as more of those Premier League teams start to make it into the division. In League 1, Mansfield and Rochdale will continue their promotion path. They both got promoted from League 2 last year, but League 2's champions Northampton missed out in the playoffs. Wrexham beating them to the post, so Wrexham are also going up to the Championship. Down at the bottom, Slough, Chelmsford, Dulwich Hamlet and Wealdstone are all going down to the League 2. In the Championship, last season's League 1 champion Grimsby is also going up again. Notts County and Sutton are joining them. Down at the bottom, Farsley, Welling and Braintree are dropping out of the Championship. And in fact, those were the 3 bottom teams from last year's Premier League. So you have to imagine those teams are now in free fall. Hopefully they picked up a bit of money along the way, and maybe they'll solidify themselves somewhere down in League 1, League 2 if they are lucky. All right, time for the Premier League. There's some really interesting stuff here. Last season's champions, I cannot believe this, last season's champions are relegated. So Leamington, St Albans and Curzon Ashton have all gone down to the Championship. Maidstone are now the new Premier League champions. They were of course promoted from the Championship last year, and there are still 3 Champions League spots, so Telford, Weymouth and Darlington, with Guiseley getting the Europa League spot. Looking at the FA Cup, you can see maybe no surprises, a lot of those Premier League teams making their way most of the way through, and a couple of the Championship teams too. We ended up with a Liverpool versus Arsenal final, with Liverpool beating out Arsenal 1-0, so Liverpool have managed to acquire themselves a Europe place once again. In the Carabao Cup, of course, the Premier League teams have not made it there yet, but next season we're expecting to see Liverpool and Man City in this competition. But for the meantime, Cambridge beat out Sunderland on penalties, which means Cambridge have also acquired a European football spot. The Community Shield was contested between Man City and Curzon Ashton. Man City beating out Curzon Ashton 4-0. In fact, I just want to have a quick look at Curzon Ashton. I want to see what happened between them winning the Premier League and getting relegated. I can't believe that. They've sacked the manager who won them the Premier League. Adam Lakeland, they sacked him in November as well. How bad was it that they had to sack him in November? Only 3 wins, no Champions League wins. We will look at the Champions League shortly. And in fact, they also sacked their replacement manager, Ian Goodinson. So Curzon Ashton have gone from Premier League champions to 2 managers in, 3 managers if you count the caretaker, within the space of a year. The Papa John's Trophy was contested between Leicester and Chelsea, Leicester winning that one out. And the Build-A-Base Trophy was won by Chelsea over Spurs. Interesting, the UEFA Super Cup was contested between 2 European teams, Man United beating out Chelsea. So let's see how some of those English teams got on in the Champions League. In the group stages, Chelsea, of course, 5 wins, 1 draw. So Chelsea have stayed competitive in Europe. Hemel Hempstead there, 6 losses, minus 26 goal difference. Not a great result for Hemel Hempstead. Could have been much worse. They lost 3-0 to Juventus. I can imagine that could have been a lot more. Man United also going through 2 wins and 4 draws. Alfreton, minus 24 goal difference. Again, 6 losses. And Curzon Ashton, maybe no surprise, 6 losses, only minus 17 goal difference. They did in fact manage to score against Rangers and Montpellier. The 2 remaining English teams both made it through the first round. Man United seeing off Atletico, Chelsea seeing off Monaco. Man United see off Juventus in the quarterfinal. Chelsea are knocked out by PSG. Man United don't make it a second consecutive Champions League. They lost out to PSG, who went on to beat Bayern Munich in the final 3-2. Which means Chelsea and Man United have both lost their European slot now, unless they can get it back via the Cups. There are 3 English teams in the Europa League. Man City, Bradford, PA and Blythe. Man City went through top of their group without losing, but Blythe again lost all 6 matches, knocked out, and Bradford, PA also lost all 6 matches, knocked out. But Man City, as you can see, went on quarter-final, they beat Trabzon, semi-final, they beat Lyon, and in the final, they beat out Porto. So Man City have acquired a Champions League spot next year. So we'll have to see how they get on, see if some of their players are. I've just seen someone who signed for Man City. Somehow Man City have convinced Kylian MBAPPE to join them. But Kylian MBAPPE is just gone and playing Vanarama National League football, and he'll be playing League 2 football next year, but that's incredible. How many goals did he get? He only got 22 goals. You would have, in 40 appearances, you would have thought he got more in the league, but that's incredible. In the Europa Conference League, England was represented by Rochdale for winning the League Cup. They did manage to pick up some wins actually. They beat Levski twice, and they got a draw with Ghent, so it's not a bad result for Rochdale. Unfortunately, it went out by 1 point, so they didn't make it through this season. And Sevilla eventually went on to win the competition. I'll take you through some of the big transfers now, show you some players that have come in and gone out of the English League football system as a result of this shake-up. So Willy Saliba has gone to Leipzig for 26 million. Saka moved from Arsenal to Man City. Obviously, you can see how quickly Man City is rising, and the fact that Arsenal aren't. Only 18 million with 31 with add-ons, so it's a pretty good price there for Saka that Man City have got. Maitland-Niles, only 15 mil. He's gone from Arsenal to Man United. Bit of an exodus from Man United there. Christie has gone to Man United from Bournemouth. Yves Bissouma has left for Ajax. Torreira left Arsenal for Fiorentina. Man City also picking up Kyle Walker-Peters and Ben Johnson from this division. So there's still a bit of money being thrown about here. In the Vanarama League North, you can see actually Leicester's lost a few players. They lost Castagna to Porto. They lost Fofana to Juve. They lost Tielemans to Inter. So Leicester might struggle a little bit if they can't replace those players. Leeds lost Rafinha to Inter. And you'll notice one trend. You will notice there's not many players coming into the division from outside. The most valuable one in the National League North was Cameron Assa, who came into Man United from Sevilla. Same in the South, Alex Crowd joining West Ham from Spartak Moscow. Now, the Vanarama National League is a bit more interesting. Diego Jota has moved on. He has left Liverpool for PSG. He obviously wants that Champions League football. Look, there's a bit of an exodus from Man City there. You can see they bought in a lot of players, but they also lost quite a few. Julian Alvarez, Phil Foden and Ruben Diaz all went to Bayern Munich. almost 80 million for the three of them combined. They've lost Gundogan to Ajax, they've lost Zinchenko to Wolfsburg, they've lost Pedro Porro to Sporting, Kyle Walker to Inter, Nathan Ake to Ajax, Herrera to Dortmund. It's a big exodus from Man City. They obviously need to balance the books a little bit. One interesting transfer in here is Oxlade-Chamberlain went from Liverpool to Newcastle, so he is staying. He doesn't want to leave England. He's staying in those bottom divisions. Jorginho and Trevor Travel are both leaving Chelsea and leaving Man United, and they replace him with Joe Gomez at Chelsea. So some interesting moves down in the round of our National League. Now, if you want to see more of these, make sure you let me know over on TikTok, and I can do individual videos for teams to see what their transfers are. There is, of course, another transfer in here we did already spot. And it is this one here. It didn't show up originally for me because I sorted them by value, but there it is. Kylian Mbappe has joined Man City on a free transfer, which is absolutely mad, the fact that he's left PSG. In fact, it doesn't even say he left PSG on a free. He must have let his contract expire, leave the club, and then join Man City. Liverpool made some interesting free signings as well. They brought in Frank Kessie, El Neni and D'Ambrosio. That is interesting that they're choosing not to spend money to bring these players in. I also went to look at all transfers in the Premier League because we know that those Premier League clubs are starting to pick up quite a bit of money. It's interesting to note that none of them have decided to break that £1 million mark yet. So the most expensive one who's gone up there is Udoka Godwin-Malief. He's gone from Forest Green to Weymouth around 900. Okay, there's good money for Forest Green as well. He's helped Weymouth to third spot in the Premier League. So it's interesting that then they haven't quite found their footing and started to spend the money. Maybe they're spending it on stadiums or on training grounds or anything like that. In fact, something interesting if I click through these Premier League teams is how many times you can see there's been a takeover. Takeover at Telford, takeover at Weymouth, takeover at Tonbridge, nothing at St Albans, they haven't had a takeover yet. They turned professional though. Takeover at Oxford, nothing at Maidstone. So a lot of these teams are getting takeovers from various consortium. And in fact, the other thing you'll notice is a lot of these clubs are having to move to new stadiums. Kettering's moved to the Milton Keynes Stadium, Hungerford's moved to the Leasing, I don't know who the Leasing Stadium is, someone let me know in the comments. Vicarage Road for Hemel Hempstead, John Smith Stadium for Guiseley. So they're having to move to the bigger stadiums so they can fit in all those new Premier League fans that they've picked up. So that's it for the Season 2 update for the Flip series. I'm going to keep going with this. I think it's going to get more and more interesting as we go on. I wonder how Kylian Mbappe is going to do down in League 2. I need to go get myself an ice cream or something. I am sweating here. This is a hot day. So please do me a favor in this heat. Give the video a like, subscribe to the channel as well. I'm going to keep bringing these videos. I've got lots more videos coming your way as well. If you want any particular team looked at, come and check it out over on the TikTok. I will answer particular questions there and do quick short previews on the TikTok channel. So make sure you come check that out. Otherwise, why not check out this series I did on England in the Premier League here.